going on, people? LP2000 right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Collect All Monsters. And man, it's been a minute since I put out my last video. The last video I did was the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla piece courtesy of Mondo, and that was what? Back in February? And here we are, the first week of April. And I decided, you know what, since I'm going to bring out a brand new video now, after being gone for some weeks, sorry about that, I figured I'm going to bring forth an awesome, spectacular, brilliant, gigantic video for you today. And without further ado, let's dive here first into this awesome X Plus Gigantic Series figure review. He has a long name. Let me get that out of the way right now. He has a long name, but I think you will enjoy this guy. And today we're taking a look at the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store Limited Edition, Purple Edition / Awakening version from its epic appearance in the awesome film Shin Godzilla. And as you can see, I have the beautiful figure here in all his glory, all purple glory. Oh, this thing is amazing. Woo-hoo-hoo! Yeah, this thing is, God almighty. It's just, I'm just amazed to not only have this piece, but just to have it sitting right here in front of me, you know. But I'll go into the backstory about how I got this figure in a few seconds. But you know how we do things around here. We got to get up close and personal with the packaging, the box, before we get into the awesome figure. And here is a picture of the box. You know, standard fare when it comes to the Gigantic Series boxes, outside of maybe the Godzilla 2000. But you know, you have the brown box, you know, the picture of the figure, you know, Shin Godzilla, the title at the bottom of the box, you know, fourth form of Shin in Japanese text, you know, whatever. And of course, you have that red and white sticker signifying that this is a Godzilla Store exclusive, meaning that you can only get this thing from the Godzilla Store and a raffle. But again, I'll talk about that momentarily. But the packaging on the box looks great. Shin Godzilla looks great on the box, you know, and he looks even better in figure form. But that's it with the packaging. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store / Limited Edition, Awakening version / Purple Edition. Woo! That's like a long title. It's like saying the whole title of GMK, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, blah, 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 blah. So, throughout the course of this video, I'm not going to be saying that over and over and over again. That's like, what, 20 words? So I'm not going to do that. But again, this guy is amazing. Now, here's the backstory about me getting this figure. I got this figure, I want to say, I think in March, either late February or March, one of the two. And my job sent me out of town to work for another terminal, because I'm a truck driver, right? And sometimes when we short-staffed at our fellow terminals, sometimes, you know, they'll send other drivers from other terminals to come in and help out for like a week or whatever, and that's it. But they'll pay you extra for going there, you know what I'm saying? And the experience was not that good, to put it lightly. It was kind of hard, more so than usual. But at the same time, the money was really good. And after having not the best experience working there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give myself a treat. I deserve a treat for going through what I went through, quite frankly. And so when I came back home, I jumped on Mandarake and I saw this guy for sale. Now, mind you, of course, Mandarake, you know, is a secondhand store in Japan that offers secondhand figures, you know, light new figures or whatever. And I saw this guy for sale. And normally, whenever you see a gigantic Shin for sale, it is not up on their website very long. So, and at the time, I didn't really have the money to buy it, because my money for me working out of town would not come until like a week or a week and a half later at that point. So I was like, wow, that's a missed opportunity, because I wanted this, right? You know, again, I wanted to treat myself. So I had my eye on this guy, but once again, I knew when I saw it online, I was like, by the next day, it's going to be gone, right? The next day, it was still up there. And I'm checking this thing daily, right? And this thing has not sold, which really surprised me, because again, Shin is very popular, you know, over there overseas. You know what I mean? He has a polarizing reputation or reaction from fans here in the West, but over there overseas, he is hugely popular. Hugely popular, excuse me. And it surprised me that this figure did not move. For a week, it didn't move. And so on the day that I got my money from working out of town, I was like, if this figure is still up there, I'm going to go for it. And lo and behold, it was still up there. And it was for a good price. A relatively good price. Because, you know, Shin Godzilla figures, for us S Plus, especially gigantic ones in the aftermarket, they go for stupid money. Horrendously overpriced money. You know what I mean? But I was able to get this guy for a relatively good price. I'm not going to tell you the exact number, but it was pretty much close to how it was when it first came out, right? And so, pound on the back for me for that. And this thing is so amazing. It really is amazing because, quite frankly, I thought I was done with Shin Godzilla. I thought I was done collecting figures from this movie. Now, mind you, I enjoy Shin Godzilla, but it's not in my top 10 of favorite Godzilla films. Probably not in my top 15. I enjoy it more so now than I did when I first watched it. But as a collector, I was fine with the figures that I had of Shin Godzilla in my collection prior to me getting this guy. Because I have the Death for Real fourth form of Shin, the second form of Shin, the third form of Shin, courtesy of S Plus. Great figures. And I also have the 25 centimeter second form, the 30 centimeter third form, as well as the first gigantic Shin from S Plus. Again, all great figures. And this is number 7. Lucky number 7. Because again, this figure, this was courtesy of the Godzilla store. Now, let me backtrack and give you the entire history of the gigantic Shin courtesy of S Plus. The first one came out in 2017. September 2017, and I remember that day because when I got that email from Hobby Search giving me the final price, shipping included, I was like, oh my God. I have never seen a number that big. In fact, there were a lot of people that wasn't really expecting for the figure to be that really high in price. A lot of them really canceled their orders with Hobby Search. And Hobby Search was really understanding from what I understand and from what I remember. Because, you know, again, this was a lot of money at the time. You know what I mean? So Hobby Search allowed a lot of customers who pre-ordered this thing to not really come through with the money because they didn't have it because the price was really high for this thing, right? So the standards came out 2017 in September. Then the Rex came out, I want to say December of that year of 2017. Now the standard, you know, of Shin, the standard version of the S Plus gigantic Shin came, you know, with red colors and his mouth was closed, right? Now the RIP version came with a roaring mouth like this, and it also came with the alternate head where his mouth was closed. But the bottom half of his body was the standard red colors, but the upper half, like his neck and his head, and I think his dorsal plates going all the way down to the tip of his tail were colored like a light shade of purple. And I do remember that when pictures started popping up overseas early of the Rick, the colors didn't look that good, which resulted in a backlash of people who ordered the Rick, and it was like, I'm not paying for that. Because they saw what the folks who ordered the standard paid for in September, and I think the Rick was a little bit more than that. But when they saw the questionable paint job on the Rick from the first overseas pictures that we got, a lot of people were like, we're not paying for that. I'm not paying for that. So I think S Plus recalled a few of them, if I'm remembering this correctly, and touched up the paint job where it did look better. So kudos on S Plus for doing that. Then they brought out the gigantic Shin again the following year of 2018, in November 2018, but it had the standard red colors, but it came with the open roaring mouth. Now his jaw wasn't separated like the Awakening version. He was roaring, but his mouth was not, his lower jaw wasn't separating. So you had that release. Then 2020, the Godzilla store released a gigantic vinyl kit of Shin. You know, it basically just this whole figure, but it was an all red vinyl. It wasn't touched up with black or anything, just all red vinyl. And later on that year in November, on Godzilla's birthday or Godzilla Festival, the Godzilla store released this figure, and you were able to get it if you were able to, you know, navigate the Godzilla store website, or if you have a contact in Japan, they could order it for you. Or I think they held a raffle for this thing. I think a few days after it was released from the Godzilla store. And I remember a lot of people stayed up late to try and order this thing. Even my good friend from from Kaiju Live, AJ Russo. He tried to get this guy. He stayed up late. I remember he tried to stay up late to get this guy. He was not successful, and he wasn't happy. But But I told him when I got this figure, since he and I are best friends and kind of like family, well, you kind of own it. Just because it's not in your possession doesn't mean that you don't own it, you know, because, you know, it didn't go over well with him. But again, a lot of people tried to order this guy, but they were not able to do so, especially over here in the West. Now, over there overseas, because they are over there and they're more able to access that site, a lot of people got theirs mostly from people overseas. I only know of a person in my inner circle that actually has this figure, and that's John Morrill from Facebook. He runs that awesome gigantic figure Facebook group. You know what I'm saying? Great guy. And he's a good friend of mine as well, just like AJ Russo. He has this figure. And I know a few people that do have this figure. I don't know him personally, but I see him on the group. But John is the only one that I know in my inner circle that actually has this figure, because this figure was limited to 500 pieces. So there's not a lot of him going around, which makes him somewhat of a grail, which is also great. And when I got mine, when I opened him up, it still had that great fresh vinyl smell. Normally when you get a bigger figure from Mandarake or for somebody secondhand or whatever, it doesn't have that true vinyl smell. You know what I'm saying? It smells like it's been in somebody's possession. You know what I'm saying? I think as a seasoned collector, as a collector in general, I think you could pick up on that. But when I got this figure, the vinyl smell was so potent because this one of the bigger gigantics. You know what I'm saying? That I can tell that this was a situation where somebody bought this from the Godzilla store or got it from the raffle or whatever. They probably sat on it, you know, whatever. They sold it to Mandarake to get some money or maybe flip it or whatever. And they never opened it. So basically this is a brand new figure going on 2 years old, because again, this was released November of 2020. So which is good, because I have inspected this figure from head to toes to tail to dorsal plates, his claws. There's not one single blemish on this figure, combined with the fact that, again, that potent vinyl smell when I unpackage him makes me believe that, again, this is brand new, despite the fact it's coming from Mandarake that sells mostly secondhand items. But again, I think somebody bought this off the Godzilla store website, sat on it, and sold it off for whatever reason, and I was able to get my hands on it. So that is a long backstory with me getting this figure. And again, this thing is so amazing. Now, I already did a review of the X Plus Gigantic Series Shin Godzilla, the standard version or whatever. So I'm not going to repeat the same things that you can find in that video. But again, I'll provide some inserts here and just go over some little details about this figure, so the video won't be that long. But again, this is taken from the original sculpt of the original gigantic Shin. And when you compare the two together, you know, you can definitely tell the sculpts are very similar. The only thing that's different is obviously the head. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is great. Like the sculpt of the gigantic Shin Godzilla is amazing, and is looked upon as one of the best gigantics that X Plus has ever done. You know, I think when you talk to people about which one is the best, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, the 64 will be in that conversation. Admittedly, I can admit that. But it depends on who you talk to. But a lot of times you will hear Shin come up in that conversation that this is the best one that X Plus has ever done. And they're not wrong, because this thing is so amazing. But again, you know, having both the standard and now having this purple one, I'm really lucky. Again, lucky number 7 when it comes to Shin. Now, I don't think I'm going to go after any more Shin figures. But then again, I said that after I got my first gigantic Shin. But again, when I saw this online in 2020, again, I knew I was not going to be able to get this guy. For one, I didn't have the money, and plus I didn't know of a way to try and get this guy, even if I did have the money. But it just I happened to luck into it, you know what I'm saying? So this was basically somewhat of a grail for me, which I'll go into more towards the tail end of the video. So to get this in my possession so early in this year of me collecting, I think I peaked as far as like me collecting this year, because this has been my favorite figure acquisition so far this year. Now, mind you, I got my hands on the KOC 1962 kit. I got my hands on the KOC Godzilla 1999 kit, and both those kits are awesome. Now, I take nothing away from Mark Sang-Yang, who helped me out with the 99, or DavidEric.co, who helped me out with the 62. But this is my favorite figure acquisition so far as like me collecting this year. I don't see this guy being top, quite frankly. And this thing is amazing. So now let's focus on him, since I provided y'all inserts with this one compared with the standard gigantic Shin. But again, this thing is amazing because it's all purple. And purple is like one of my favorite colors. And you can attribute that for me being an Undertaker fan, because I'm an Undertaker fan. You know, it's too bad he retired. I'm not over that. But I've always been an Undertaker fan. And I love my favorite version of Undertaker. If you're a wrestling fan, you know the wrestler, The Undertaker. My favorite version is when he came back in 1994 and he had like the purple gear, the purple stripe on his hat, the purple gloves, the purple boot covers, and the purple lining in his jacket. So ever since then, I've been a huge fan of purple. And I do love Prince. I do love Prince. So when I saw this figure, I was like, wow, this is amazing. But again, I didn't have the funds nor the means to get it at the time. But I've always wanted this. In the back of my mind, I've always wanted to get this guy, you know? And I'm glad that the stars aligned that I was able to get this guy. But again, you know, it's so similar to the gigantic Shin in terms of sculpt. But again, you know, the main difference is basically the head. But everything else is pretty much the same. But I just love how just this figure is just the purple they applied, the purple paint scheme they applied to this figure, again, is so, so amazing. And there was another reason why I wanted to get this figure, because it stands out. When you're an S Plus collector and you collect a whole bunch of Godzillas and all the figures that S Plus has done, you know, when you have your collection, you know, you have a sea of grays, but the sea of gray coloring in your collection when it comes to the Godzillas, the gold when it comes to King Ghidorah, or the browns when it comes to Kong. But when you have, let's say, the gigantic Bernard Godzilla 1995, right? Or the multicolored red, white, and blue 25 centimeter 64 King Ghidorah, right? Or if you have this guy right here, you know, they stand out because they're not the typical versions of Godzilla, King Ghidorah, or whatever. And there's an interesting story to why the figure looks the way that it looks. So that's another reason why I wanted to get this guy, because he stands out. You know, like I said, amidst the sea of grays and browns and golds and all that good stuff, the purple makes this thing stand out. And again, purple is one of my most favorite colors. But from head to toe, this thing is amazing. So not much really go on here. But let me talk about the main difference between the standard and the Awakening version here of Shin. Aside from the sculpt, I mean, the sculpt is similar, mostly. But the main difference is with the head of the Awakening version, because his mouth is wide open. Now, truth be told, I was never really a big fan of Godzilla looking like this. That was the reason why I didn't go for the original Rick in the first place when I got my standard gigantic Shin. I was never really a big fan of Godzilla's lower jaw splitting open like that. It just looked too weird. Now, Shin Godzilla already is a departure somewhat of the classic Godzilla design. He still looks like Godzilla, but it's such an extreme departure, a nightmarish departure, if you will. And I was fine with that for the most part with, you know, with the red, you know, standard colors of Shin. But when he did this in the film, when he opened his mouth and the jaw just separated, I was like, ugh. It took me a while to get used to. Because I was afraid that the more that it separated, it might fall off his head. But when this figure again was announced and I looked at it, I was like, you know what? That does look cool. And just the purple coloring in the mouth, you know what I'm saying, just really just sells me on this thing and really makes me appreciate the split jaw even more. I don't want it splitting wider than this, quite frankly. But this is so cool, and again, and the way it's colored in the mouth here, just the buildup of energy, because you know what's coming. You know what? Let's talk about that for a second, because I maintain to this day that this version of Godzilla has the most impressive version of his atomic breath, unlike any version of Godzilla that I have ever seen. And when you think about standout versions of Godzilla's atomic breath, and when he uses it in certain scenes. Of course, the ones that stand out to me, you think about when he uses it for the first time in '54, when he just lays waste to the electrical towers, and he just tears them down and melts them, which gives him an all-access pass to Tokyo. That was a cool scene. Or in '91, when he severed King Ghidorah's head, that was a memorable scene involving Godzilla's atomic breath. Or how about 2014? Yes, I'm gonna mention 2014. The way they built up that, you know, where his dorsal plates on the tip of his tail was lighting up, boop, 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 boop. That was handled really well. But even though I enjoyed those versions of the atomic breath from Godzilla, and they were awesome scenes, in my opinion, they don't compare to what happened with Shin Godzilla. And when I watched that scene, now mind you, before that scene happens, you know, Godzilla comes to Tokyo in his fourth form, and the military is mobilizing everything around him, you know, so they can start attacking him, firing him, you know, whatever. And they do everything. They fire missiles, bullets, bombs, and you can see like the close-ups on the guns on the helicopter, and they firing all those million rounds per second right at Shin Godzilla's face. And these things, you see a close-up of Shin Godzilla's face, and they just bouncing off his face. And he doesn't change his expression. He doesn't do anything. He just keeps coming and coming. It's like everything they do, as far as like bombing him with bombs and missiles and bullets, they don't do anything. It doesn't work. They don't hurt him at all. Until when the stealth bombers come in, and they finally hurt him. They finally hurt him to the point where he collapses. And even have that gory shot of blood just pouring down off his back onto the camera. And I saw that, I was like, wow, that was gory. But at the same time, I was like, even though that's good that you were able to hurt him, but I'm thinking, what's the retaliation is going to be like? Come like this, if you hurt this Godzilla, he's going to give you a response, and it's not going to be good. Then he just bends over. His mouth opens like this. The jaw splits open. The light forms in his mouth. Then he sucks up all the oxygen that's within his nearby vicinity. Then just basically it just ignites the flame, and just there's like a big blowout of flame that just protrudes from his mouth that blows away everything on a scale unlike we have ever seen before, and probably since. When I saw that, I was amazed. My jaw was on the floor because I have never seen Godzilla do that with his atomic breath. And I've seen pretty much all his films, but I have never seen a version of Godzilla do that. You know what I'm saying? Now, I could have done without the flames forming into a missile and him shooting laser beams from his back. I could have done without that. But the fire, atomic breath, oh my God, just, that's just amazing. And that's when I see this Godzilla, or at least this figure. You know what I'm saying? He looks really frightening looking like this. You know, if you thought the standard version looks disturbing and frightening, and he does, I ain't taking it away from the standard here, but this one right here just takes it to another level, just a step above the standard. With his mouth open like this, the energy and the flames that's coming with his mouth open like this, the shark-like teeth, the fact that his he got the eye covering on his eyes to protect his eyes from the flames and everything that he's going to do. So again, I love how they put that much attention to detail into the mouth, the teeth, as well as the like I said, the covering on his eyes, the silver covering on his eyes. So from head to tail, the sculpt is amazing. The purple paint scheme is amazing. I think it is translucent in certain areas, whatever. But again, this figure stands out. And that's one of the main reasons why I got this guy. And I'm so glad I finally had this guy in my collection. Yes, yes, yes. And if you want one, they're out there. But again, you're going to have to spend some money for it. It just depends how much a figure like this would mean to you. You know what I'm saying? Again, this was kind of a grail item for me, and I was in a position where I could get it. You know what I'm saying? So you may find yourself in a similar position. So if you do find this guy in the wild and you have some money, remember you're gonna spend some money for it. And if it's worth it to you, I say, especially if you're a Shin fan, I say go for it, because this again is a standout piece, and it will definitely stand out in your collection. No doubt about that. And it's amazing on so many different levels. Yes, yes, yes. So let's do just one size comparison. You know what? I'm gonna bring up my standard gigantic Shin, as well as the 30 centimeter third form of Shin, as well as the 25 centimeter second form of Shin, when the one and only size comparison. And let's see the evolution of this awesome version of the King of the Monsters. Of course, I'm talking about Shin Godzilla. So let's do that one and only size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the first and only size comparison, and yes, we're talking about the evolution of the nightmarish version of the King of the Monsters in Shin Godzilla. Yes, yes, yes. So let's go from the foreground to the background, and at the bottom we have the X Plus 25 centimeter second form of Shin Godzilla, Rick exclusive edition, the Kamada-kun, if you will. And of course, we have the 30 centimeter third form of Shin. I think it's called the Shinagawa-kun. Rick exclusive edition. Great figure. And of course, to the left, we have the X Plus Gigantic Series standard version of Shin Godzilla 4th form. And of course, the Man of the Hour, the X Plus Gigantic Series Purple Edition, blah, 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 blah. Again, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the whole title. You already know who it is. And as you can see, you see the frightening and evolution of Shin Godzilla. Now, I don't have the first form, which I think is that tail that pops up out of the water in the early going of the movie. You know, I don't have that. Not really looking for it. As a matter of fact, I'm fine with just these versions of Shin Godzilla, as well as the Devil Reels, because the Devil Reels are cool too. But again, you see the frightening and awesome evolution of Shin Godzilla. As I like to call it, you have the second form, you have the third form, you have the fourth form, and the purple one is the F up everything in sight form. Because you see Godzilla going from you know, powerful to more powerful to more powerful, and then to ultimate power. Because again, the purple one really signifies him at his most dangerous point. So again, you get the evolution of Shin Godzilla, and this looks great. And as you can see here, they take up a lot of space because all of them, you know, have long tails, especially the gigantics. You know, trying to make space for those is not easy. You know what I'm saying? That's why in my room I have them in opposite sections of the room, because I can't put both of them together because they're so big. They can't accommodate being next to each other. But again, seeing these together is great. So if you're a fan of Shin Godzilla, you owe it to yourself to go after every single one of these figures, and they earn my highest recommendation. This is from somebody who's not really a big fan of Shin Godzilla, but I love these figures. And again, I think the purple one is going to be my last one, and I couldn't think of a better one to stop when it comes to Shin Godzilla with this ultimate, you know, purple one. You know what I'm saying? So that's it with the size comparison, the first and only size comparison. So let's wrap up with this video with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store Limited Edition Awakening / Purple version. Again, it's probably the last I'm going to say it the entire whole way through. All right, so let's go with that final commentary portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store Limited Edition Awakening / Purple version. Yes, 10 out of 10. This thing is amazing. And I'm looking at it right now. I just can't believe this figure is here. This grail that I've been searching for and wanting for a long time is finally here in my possession, but it is. And this is a great figure. So again, if you're a fan of Shin Godzilla, and you want a gigantic version of the monster from the film, you know, there are plenty of options out there. You have the Kyoto version, you know, which is an awesome figure. You know, you have the standard version of the X Plus Gigantic Shin. Of course, the roaring one with the red standard colors that I talked about earlier. Of course, the kit. And of course, you have this one. And you can't go wrong with either one. But I think this is the best one that they have ever done. And I know that a lot of people are sick to death with X Plus, you know, reissuing figures and giving them different paint variants, you know, whatever. But this is an example of one that is really interesting and really cool. And it signifies a point in the film where Godzilla was at his most dangerous, which I really love. Because you know me, I'm a huge Godzilla fan, and I prefer him more so as a villain, antagonist, and as a threat. And you can't get more threatening or dangerous than this version of Godzilla at this particular moment in time, you know. So this is a great figure. Now, normally around this part of the video, during my standard, you know, reviewing format or whatever you want to call it, this is the part where I will talk about the film, but I'm actually going to defer y'all to the most recent discussion that I did on Collect All Monsters, on our Collect All Monsters YouTube channel, where myself, Gojira 851, Matt Jacobson, a good friend of mine, and of course another good friend of mine, John Ruffin of MyKaiju.com, as well as another awesome host on Collect All Monsters, and we all got together and we compared our gigantic Shins that we have in our collection. Of course, I compared my purple one, John had his Kyoto, and Matt had his X Plus standard version, the red version, you know, and we compared our respective gigantic Shins, and we also talked about the movie. So please go back and watch that video. And not only did we talk about the figures, but we also had an in-depth discussion about the film itself, you know what I'm saying? But I will say this about Shin Godzilla. At first, I didn't know what to make of it, you know, and in a way, to this day, I still don't. But I appreciate it more so now than when I did when I first watched it. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, Shin Godzilla would not be in my top 10 of favorite Godzilla films, and I don't think it will be there. But I appreciate it more than what it was, and that's the thing. I think you can still appreciate something. Doesn't mean you have to love it or like it, but at least you can appreciate what it tried to do. And right now, I appreciate what the film tried to do, or what it did, or the story that it brought to us. Again, I don't think the fandom was ready for a film like this or a version of Godzilla like this, but I'm glad it does exist because it proves that you can take the character into different directions, not have him beat up aliens and monsters and stuff we've been seeing for going on 70 years in 2 years, you know. So I enjoy the motivation and the execution of Shin Godzilla, but I love more so the fact that it really took the character into a new territory, and I'm all for that. Even the anime Godzilla, Singular Point, as well as the anime trilogy, even though they're not high up on my list, I do appreciate them for taking the character into bold new directions, even at the expense of alienating some of the people that are huge fans of the character. You know what I mean? So I really do enjoy that about Shin Godzilla. Now, as far as like grails, again, this was a grail of mine. And it proves that, you know what, if you're a new collector or a seasoned collector, if you have goals, if you have grails that you want to accomplish, don't give up on those goals, because you never know. You never know what luck may come your way or what stars may align that will allow you to get what you're looking for. Now, when it comes to grails, now I know that if you're a seasoned collector or a new collector, you know, I know we all have collecting goals. We want to get this figure, we want to get that figure. And sometimes an opportunity may present itself to get a certain figure, but you may not be ready to get it at that time. Maybe you don't have the money, maybe you're not online when the figure comes up for order or whatever. Like me, again, in 2020, at the time, I didn't have the money nor any type of reliable means to get this figure. So, but I still wanted it, you know? And sometimes, you know, you have to wait. Sometimes what you're looking for may not come when you want it. Sometimes you have to wait. You have to wait for the opportunity to present itself. And then you have to be there. You have to be ready for it. You know what I mean? And again, with this figure, or the KOC King Goji that I got a few weeks ago, or the KOC 99, I didn't expect to get those figures, but I did. And it just proves, I'm living proof that if you have collecting goals and if you have grails that you want to add to your collection, do not give up on those goals. Do not give up on them, because as I've always said, when it comes to collecting, it's not a question of if you get something, it's a question of when. You have to just do the work, put the work in, persevere, be persistent, stay, you know, steadfast in your goal in getting what you want to get. And I promise you, you will get whatever you have coming to you or what you want. Because again, this giant purple monstrosity is proof of that. So don't give up on your dreams and don't give up on your grails. Yes, yes, yes. But again, if you're a huge Shin fan, you owe it to yourself to go after this guy. You would not be disappointed. Yes, yes, yes. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store Limited Edition Awakening / Purple version, based on its appearance in the awesome, super cool, spectacular, awesome film, Shin Godzilla. You have any questions, holler me down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Let's Be Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, awesome figure. Oh my God, this thing is so amazing. Again, if you're in the market for a gigantic version of Shin Godzilla, of course you have the Kyoto version, you have the X Plus standard version, you have the X Plus standard color roaring version, you know, you have the red all vinyl kit, and you have this one right here. But I think between all of them, this one is the one you need to go after. If you want a version of Godzilla when he's most intimidating, when he's most frightening looking, scary looking, especially at his most dangerous, you can't go wrong with this figure right here. And yes, he really is rare. You know, he's really sought after. But again, I think that's one of the good things about this figure release. Yes, it's both good and bad. It's bad that when this figure was released, that a lot of people didn't have, more people didn't have access to this guy, and that's very unfortunate. I know that a lot of people, like I said, AJ Russo, who really want this guy. But at the same time, this makes figures like this really, really rare, because a lot of people don't really have this figure. This makes him, again, it makes him more rare, it makes him more valuable, makes him more of a prized treasure, if you will, in your collection. So if you want one, a gigantic version of Shin Godzilla, really go after this one. Again, he's gonna be up there in price, but again, it was a grail and it's a goal to add a version of Shin Godzilla to your collection. Go for the highest one. Go for the best. Go for the top. And you can't find anyone better than this guy right here. So ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the X Plus Gigantic Series 4th form of Shin Godzilla, the Godzilla Store Limited Edition Awakening / Proper version, based on its appearance in the iconic, brilliant, spectacular, awesome Shin Godzilla. Yes, yes, yes. I thank so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on the next figure move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.